I use index funds a lot, and I use them for two things. One is I'm investing for a shorter term than 10 years. I'm just parking some money in a mutual fund. Like I've got some money parked in a mutual fund that I just pulled it out about a month ago because they were closing on a big piece of real estate. So I was saving up for a piece of real estate. And, and so if I'm saving up and doing, I'm parking some money in a mutual fund until I buy some real estate. Sometimes it'll sit there a year, sometimes it'll sit there 3 years, but, generally something like that. And so I throw money in there versus sitting in a stupid savings account. And I like the low fees and the predictability of an index fund for that. Now, what an index fund is, folks, is it's a mutual fund that attempts to mirror what a stock market index does. There are several stock market indexes. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is a stock market index. The S&P 500 is probably the most famous index, and that stands for Standard & Poor is a company that rates companies on the stock market, and they rate the top 500 companies in terms of size on the New York Stock Exchange, which is the largest, is the stock exchange for exchanging stocks of the largest companies. So Standard & Poor 500 is an index that if you bought a share of stock in each of those 500 companies, then what would your portfolio do? Or if you bought a mutual fund that attempted to mirror that, what would that portfolio do? It'll do exactly what the stock market does, because an S&P 500 is considered the most accurate measure of what the stock market's actually doing. Now, I know the Dow Jones Industrial Average is what everybody looks at, but it's not really nearly as accurate because only 30 stocks in the Dow, and so this has got 500 in it. So it's a more representative of what's really going on in the stock market. So that's an index fund, and that's what I use as an S&P 500 index fund when I'm parking money for the short term. Another thing an index fund is good for is because they're not trying to beat the market, they are trying to be the market. They're basically buying stocks that are those 500 companies. That's it. They're trying to model after that. And so they hardly ever sell the stocks inside the mutual fund. They just buy them and hold them. So if you buy that, it has what's called a low turnover ratio, which means they don't sell the stocks inside the mutual fund hardly ever. It's less than 5% of the stocks turn over in a year. And so they keep it. The good news about that is if you invest in that fund, unless you cash out of the fund, all of the growth is tax deferred. And if you hold it a year, you're taxed at capital gains rate on anything that goes up. And versus, say, like an annuity, we were talking about a minute ago, a variable annuity, you have to hold that forever. And when you pull it out, it's taxed at ordinary income. And so you're better off to have been in a low turnover index fund than you would be, say, in a variable annuity, as another example of why variable annuities are one of my lesser choices. Now, to answer your question, though, Ben, is what are my thoughts on using that to lower fees on retirement? I don't worry about fees as much on retirement. My 401k has fee funds in it, and I'm fine with paying a fee on those funds. And I buy some funds that have a load or a fee, a commission charged off the front when you buy them. I don't mind that a bit at all, because I'm holding those over a long period of time, and that fee then is amortized over all of those years, and so it amounts to almost nothing in the equation. The reason people don't have money when they get to retirement is not fees. The reason people don't have money when they get to retirement is not even rate of return, which is what I used to think it was. But there's tons of studies out there, and the most recent one that I got a hold of is really pretty cool. It's from the ASPPA, the Actuaries, Consultants, Administrators, and Other Retirement Plan Professionals. Talk about an association of nerds, okay? The Actuaries, Consultants, Administrators, and Other Retirement Plan Professionals. They did a detailed set of research on why people don't have money at retirement. Because the industry is always accused of charging such high fees, and that's why people don't have money at retirement. Or the stock market, oh, it went down, I lost all my money in the stock market. That's not why people don't have money. That's not it. the number one reason, the number one primary driver of people who are successful in retirement is not that they kept the fees low. It's not that they got rate of return. You know what it is? 74% of an indicator is a primary driver. Fast, by far, not even a close second. 74% of the reason you will be successful in retirement. You know what it is? Your rate of savings. Translation. If you want money at retirement, you have to save money. Well, there it is. And yet all these nerds in the financial world run around, carping on and, read these articles and see supposed consumer advocates. It's a bunch of crap. They just do not know what they're talking about. Oh, it's the fees. It's the evil financial people are charging fees. And, the rates of return are horrendous. It's all over the place. No, rates of return are great. Fees are reasonable. They're not that high. I buy some no-load funds. I buy load funds. I just described that. The reason people succeed in having money in retirement is they actually save money. When you put money in retirement, you know what? You'll have money in retirement. There it is again. This is freaking obvious. But people get caught up in stuff, worrying about the fees, and so they spend all their time with paralysis of the analysis, and they do nothing. As a result, nothing. And so you end up with nothing. In other words, if you do a poor job of selecting an underperforming fund that has unusually high fees and you invest, you are light years more likely to retire with dignity than some financial goob who sits around with his calculator and his Poindexter nerdification, spending all his time in paralysis of the analysis, never puts money in because he's trying to figure out how somebody's trying to rip him off. Really. I mean, Bernie Madoff is not the problem, you guys. You're the problem. You don't put any freaking money in there. Your 401k is going to have nothing in it if you put nothing in it. This is not rocket science. So, Ben, all of that to say, good question, but the wrong question. What are your thoughts on using index funds as a means of lowering fees for retirement? I don't give a rip. That's my thoughts. It's an okay thing, and I used it as a point to teach from here for a few minutes, but for lowering fees for retirement is the wrong question. The right question is, how can I put more money in my retirement account so I have some money in my retirement account? That's the right question. And then make sure it's invested in good growth stock mutual funds that have long track records. And yeah, look at the fees, that's fine. But 85% of my analysis on which fund I'm going to pick to 90% is based on its track record on that fund. I look at the fees, but just a cursory glance. I really don't spend a lot of time on fees. Now, I make a decision on a fee, whether I'm doing a load or no load, based on what I described earlier. If I'm parking the money for a short time, or I'm above my, I'm maxed out on all my retirement accounts, which I am, putting all I can put, then I'm looking for a low turnover ratio. These are some things I'm looking for. But again, they're not a fee-based decision. The decision was, I'm going to invest, I've got some money. That's a big chunk of it right there. So don't get caught up in this thing of, oh man, I gotta do an index fund, I gotta do I have to do an ETF, I have to make sure I don't let the investment professional make any money, because everybody knows the investment professionals ripping everybody off. Oh crap. That's just not true. It's mathematically not true. The research doesn't back it up. It's just garbage. So you need to be investing, and you need somebody in your corner teaching you to invest and keeping you investing, and that's how you end up with money. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.